22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Facebook. We're live. We're also live on YouTube. What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a special show that I took it upon myself to call my man AJ, and I said I have to talk about this. I was in a process of writing an article for Black Westchester, and I looked at the testimony again of these 3 female officers from the Westchester County Department of Correction, which I work there now. I've been working there for 33 years, and I just had to show it. You know, I've taken upon myself to show this video because, you know, everybody knows I'm for reform of the justice system. I've been speaking about it for over 25 years. So I'm not no Johnny come lately in the game of accountability and addressing the racial issues and the biasness in our justice system. But I also feel that in the effort for a lot of us to address it, there's some legislation that just went too far, and we're forgetting, you know, about the people that have to literally deal with people inside correctional facilities. Does racism exist? Absolutely. Does bigotry and all that bias? Absolutely, absolutely. But we cannot be so zealous that we put the people in correctional facilities throughout New York State in danger. And what's so important is that out of all the law enforcement departments, corrections is the department that has the most Black and brown people working there. Specifically, Westchester County. If you go to the 1992 African American Advisory Board report to then County Exec Andrew O'Rourke, the middle class of Westchester County was held on his shoulders by the Westchester County Department of Corrections and General Motors, because those two employed the most Black people, and Westchester County Department of Corrections employed more Black men than any other civil service department in the county. So we understand that. So when I see, and first of all, before I play this, hats off to these female officers who were brave enough to speak in front of the county legislators. And I'm going to play it because I want people to hear their testimony. You know, when we talk about reform and we talk about solitary confinement, we jumped over punitive segregation, and the same crimes that will committed in society, and you want to put them in jail. But what happens when they commit those same crimes in jail? Where do they go? What do you want us? What do you want us to do with them? When you have down in Rikers, they're raping, they're threatening to rape up here, but they're literally raping female officers, and nothing happens to them. But if they raped a woman out on the street, you want to send them to jail. Well, what happens when they rape somebody in jail? What do you want us to do with them there? You took all the power away with this HALT bill. You took it all away. You went too far. You went too far. And you're putting people that come to work every day in danger. And I'm saying this, and can't nobody stand up to my record in speaking out on police brutality and police reform and justice reform. Can't nobody. Ain't none of y'all can top my 25 years. So if I'm saying you went too far, you goddamn went too far. So I want people to hear this. I want people to actually hear this testimony from these young ladies. Hold on a second.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Tuesday, April 2022, the meeting of Public Safety Committee, meeting jointly with the Committee on Legislation. It is 4:05 p.m. I would like to first take attendance. I am here. Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Legislator Alvarado. Legislator, okay. Legislator Barr. Here. Legislator Cungio. Here. Legislator Johnson. Legislator Pierce. Legislator Woodson Samuels. And Chairwoman Borgia.
Okay, and I will,
Sorry, I was muted.
That's all right.
I will open legislation. I am here, Vice Chair Gashi, see, Legislator Barr.
Here.
Legislator Boykin. Legislator Cunzio.
Here.
Legislator Johnson. Legislator Marr. Legislator Shimsky. And Chairwoman Borgia. Okay, we are open at 4:06 p.m.
Okay, I would like to start off by approving our minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? The minutes are from Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. I'd like to take a vote. Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Did you see this from the?
All right, I am a yes. Legislator Smith?
Yes.
Legislator Alvarado?
Yes.
Legislator Barr,
Yes.
Do it
Legislator,
performance-based, rather than cost.
Legislator Kunzio,
It will.
Legislator Johnson, Legislator Pierce, Legislator Woodson Samuels, Chairwoman Borja.
Yes.
Thank you. So this afternoon, we are welcoming guests today. Today, we are joined by members of the Westchester County Corrections Officers Benevolent Association, who will discuss issues that face them on their job. We will also discuss legislation that we support in the state package that raises penalties for sexually touching or assaulting a female corrections officer to a Class A felony. I would like to invite the members to come up. I would like to introduce our guest. Our first guest is the President, Neil Colon. Please come to the table. Officer Magdalena Genzaroli. Okay. Officer Portia Williams and Officer Carolyn Simons. I would like to also recognize Commissioner Spano, welcome him, and Deputy Commissioner Diaz.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So would you like to say something?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. I know this meeting has been a little while in the making, and we're happy that we have you here today to talk to us about the legislation that, as Chairwoman Clements mentioned, we have supported. That's currently pending at the state level, and so we're here to hear from you on it.
Welcome once again. We're so glad that you could come out today, and we'd like to hear what you're going to share with us. Okay. Okay, go right ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Neil Colon, and I am the president of Westchester COPA. I represent just over 700 of Westchester's voters. I'd like to say thank you to Madam Chair, Legislator Clements, for accommodating us to be here today, and the rest of the Public Safety Committee. Our department has around 200 uniformed staff that are not only female officers, but they are daughters, mothers, sisters, aunts, and we even have a few grandmothers. And these brave women not only earned our respect, they deserve it. Since bail reform a few years ago, our jail population has changed greatly. Most of the inmates in our care and custody have done something deemed dangerous enough that even under the current reforms, that they still have remanded. Add to this the growing psych population due to many of the state facilities being closed and lack of beds available. Let's just say the amount of sexual harassment, which includes groping, being purposefully exposed to open masturbation, and even threats of gang rape have increased to a very dangerous and frightening level. This afternoon, I'm accompanied by 3 of my officers who are not only brave enough to tell their stories, but are passionate enough to share with you what it's like to work behind the walls of a correctional facility. The events that they will share would all be criminal if they were committed in the outside world, but somehow were brushed aside once they put their uniform on. In or out of it, they wear proudly, first and foremost, they are constituents of New York State, constituents of Westchester County, and their rights need to be protected. The law is the law, and it shouldn't stop at the gates of the Westchester County Jail. Once again, thank you for allowing us this forum, and I introduce to you Officers Ganzaroli and Williams. Ganzaroli, you can start off.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I've been with Westchester Corrections for about 8 years now. I started corrections when I was just about 21, 22 years old. I'm personally from Yonkers. I'm a female. I'm used to catcalls, but the direction we're headed in our facility, and I'm sure amongst other facilities, goes way beyond catcalls. Even since my first tour of the building, just walking through the building, I kind of got a taste of what I was getting into. But we've crossed the line from catcalls, which are legal, annoying, but legal, into exposing yourself, masturbating while I'm doing my tours, threatening me that if I walk a tour while you're out of your cell, you're going to rape me. You're going to not only rape me, but you're going to bring other inmates in to take a turn and rape me. And while I can say Most of the male officers at our facility, most of our supervisors are very supportive of us. This has above just our facility. This is above just our county. At this point, we need the state to hear us. This is a bigger issue, especially because we're so restricted on what we can do in return. Key block is about to be a thing of the past. There is no key block for 30 days for masturbating, for threatening to throw bodily fluids on me, such as semen. These days are going out the window. It's becoming more focused on rehabilitation. Like I said, I'm from Yonkers myself. I agree there has to be a rehabilitation component in engage in.
That's very sad and also shocking in some ways. I volunteered to work in the prison when I was in graduate school, and I was isolated from a lot of things that went on when I walked through to go to the area that I was going to be in. And I couldn't imagine to have to walk in there every single day and then to go through what you're going through. And that complete, absolute disrespect is just uncalled for.
Thank you. And even on a mental health note, we focus a lot on the inmate's mental health. That's what HALT's about. Even after an incident, if the inmate has an incident, they're seen by medical. That's our first priority. Make sure they're okay. They had a fight, make sure they're okay. They had an incident with an officer, make sure they're okay. But when these things happen to us, it's like, put it on paper, and then it becomes about the inmate. The disciplinary system is about the inmate. What are we doing to the inmate? Nobody says, Officer Simon, you saw a man masturbating last night. Do you need to be seen? Do you need to go out to the hospital? Do you need to see mental health? Our mental health, we have to do 25 years, most of us behind these walls. That's hard enough. But with the added component of being sexually harassed, what happens if we get to a point where we say, you know what? This is post-traumatic stress. I can't do this for the next 14 years. I can't come into work knowing that. Even having a basic conversation, we talk to inmates about their cases, how's your family doing? How are you feeling? That can turn into, I can't wait till I go home so I can try to grab you up in the street. Even a normal conversation. So mental health for us it's also becoming a big issue.
Before we get to the next officer, I included, it's the New York State Consolidated Laws, Penal Law. It's stalking in the third degree, which would be a misdemeanor. It's repetitive stalking of, hey, when you come around, I'm gonna rape you. If it's done once or twice, we can now put this into the law. I'm gonna talk to the senators that wrote the bill and try to include that. That would be a misdemeanor charge then, just for the stalking part of it. Yes.
One thing I disagree with is the catcalls. Even that, I can't see why that would be tolerated in this situation where you're part of rehabilitation is teaching treat people with dignity and respect. And it's, you know, I guess the big question is how, and I guess we can hear from the commissioner on his view on how we can change things. That's certainly not the kind of workplace that you should be to that extent. We're part of the same government, we're all work jobs for government.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be exposed.
There's a stigma that, you know, we're in jail. And like I said, most of my male coworkers are very supportive. I have a disciplinary report that I would like to share before the conclusion of the meeting. And when that event happened, I had so many male officers reach out to me. Are you okay? How you feel? You know, is everything okay? Even some males will offer to swap spots with you, but that's not always possible. But even with that stigma, I signed up, I gave an oath to Westchester County to protect civilians and also to provide care and custody. No part of that oath said that I should sit there and take a form of verbal abuse, threats of physical abuse, threats of sodomy, threats of rape in order to do my job.
Okay, so Damon, I would like to hear from all officers and then we can discuss things. Okay.
You gonna go, Ms. Simon?
Yes, hi, my name is Officer Simon. I have been in corrections for 15 years, but I've been with Westchester County for 7 years. And what I can say is agreeing with Officer Gansroli, the character of the inmates that are coming in now it's changed. It's become a lot worse. We get told S&D, which is suck my dick, every day, all the time. When we're not getting told that, we are getting told, F you bitch, oh gosh, what else? Some things I don't even want to say because that's how vulgar it is.
Take the gay off of you.
Yeah, our families are being threatened, our daughters are being threatened. My story is a little different. I was actually groped by an inmate. I work relief shift. I work 11 to 7. My job is to go in and break officers. So I was walking onto a block. It's a pod, working a pod, about 34, 40 inmates on a pod. And I'm going, and they're all out. They're around you. There's no personal space at all.
There's no control bubble.
You have an officer in the bubble. It's you and the inmates. That's it. I'm going in to relieve the officer, and like I said, there's no personal space. They're all around you. I walk in, I'm standing, the computer monitor's there, standing at the desk, officer standing here, inmate is walking up the steps because there's just a railing there. Sorry if I get a little emotional.
It's okay, it's all right, it's fine, yeah.
Inmate walks up the steps, and the first time I had to look at the video to see what actually happened. The first time they said he reached in, I didn't feel it. The second time I felt him grab, he grabbed my thigh, and automatically I turned around and I pushed him, and he went back, and I just kind of lost it, and I started yelling at him, and the officer that was there walked away. And at that moment, I didn't feel threatened because I pushed him away. I felt violated. I didn't understand why it happened and why it happened to me. I don't go to work to be touched, to be assaulted. I give respect because that's how I was raised. But I do my job. I don't give them anything more than what they should have. And I didn't understand why he felt that was okay. And I'm sorry.
Okay.
You don't have to apologize.
You don't have to apologize at all.
But those are the type of things that we deal with. And what I didn't like is how it was handled. I'm sorry.
Okay, take your time.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
I'm still not okay with it.
Yeah. You can take a minute and sit down, you know, you can always, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Next,
So,
hold on one second.
Yeah.
Miss Williams is one of the main reasons why we're here today. She's spearheaded this for, how long, about 2 years ago? About 2 years ago, I was getting the calls on
over and over.
over and over about different incidents. This is when I said to myself, something needs to be done, and that's where we started this movement.
Okay, so how often would you say these things are happening on a daily, weekly? How often do you think these incidents are happening?
So honestly, it's no way to tell,
Okay.
because to me, it could happen. It happened maybe every 2 weeks. I would say that it happened. But then the thing is that I would also speak to other female officers, and it was happening to them.
Right.
The thing about it is that we don't have enough communication. And as we are brief on the things that are going on, that have went on in the jail, we come in 5 minutes extra or earlier before our shift to find out, was there a fight? Was there something that we should know about? And I've noticed that every time, it's never anything about what I wrote up. It's never anything about this inmate has sexually harassed this officer, or to be aware that this person is a sexual deviant or he's abusive anyway. And I've said things to people, and they said, well, that's not something that needs to be said at briefing, but it is, because I wasn't aware of Officer Simon's issues. I wasn't aware of Officer Ganzaroli's issues. I'm aware of certain things because I take the initiative and I go out and I speak to other female officers because I knew the things that I was going through. And I understood that for many of them, they didn't feel empowered by the department. And it was basically that their morale was broken, and their spirits were broken. And I feel that that's very easy to happen because they were writing things up and nothing was coming of it. And I've had my own situations where I've said that I called the supervisor and I said, I'm going to write this person up. And they say to me, well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to write them up, you can. Nothing's going to happen right now. Or, you know, they just take a very lackadaisical approach as if it's not an issue. But it's a very large issue. And I think that the problem is that people aren't understanding that it's a major issue, and it's something that is affecting the female officers in a very negative way. I've asked, to go back, I only have 3 years experience in corrections, period. I've not worked anywhere else other than Westchester County, so I have nothing else to go over. However, the first time that this has ever happened to me, that someone exposed themselves, I was on a pod, it's in the new jail, and I was doing one of my last tours. So one of the things that we did was collect commissary papers from people, so that they were able to get commissary and food items on a whatever day. So I was walking around, and then someone called me to their cell, and it was under the pretense that he wanted to give me his commissary paper. So the door is locked, and so he's standing at the door, and I'm waiting for him to hand me the paper. So now he's like signing, and he's doing something with the paper. And I'm wondering, what's taking you so long? Why isn't he giving me the paper? Because if I don't give this paper in today, he's not going to get his commissary the next day. So now I'm waiting, and then I realize that he has his penis out. And so he's called me back over so that he can expose himself to me. And the first time that it happened, I never told anyone because I was a brand new officer and I was scared to death.
I was scared of what others were going to think of me if I was being that friendly officer that likes inmates. What was the reason that somebody would think to do this to me? I felt that it was my fault. I felt that I had maybe smiled inappropriately. Maybe I don't know. I thought that it was me because at no point in time had anyone ever said to me, you know what? Someone may have done this. Someone may do this. This is my story. This is what happened to me. At no time in the training in the academy was I aware that this is a thing that inmates do. It wasn't until I spoke to my brother, and my brother was actually someone, he had been incarcerated upstate, downstate, Westchester County Jail, all of these different places. I spoke to him about it because I was too ashamed to speak to anybody else about it because I thought they were going to blame me. And he said to me, you never take that. That's not something that's ever okay. You always write it up and you let someone know because God forbid anything happens to you outside. Because when I took the test, it said that you have to be a Westchester County resident. And when I started, the inmates that we were taking were Westchester County residents. That's why they were there. So if I were to go outside and something happened to me, it's very likely that I could see this person. I'm living in Mount Vernon. Our inmates are Mount Vernon, Yonkers, White Plains, Greenberg. So it wasn't until I spoke to my brother, who is a felon. He pushed me and he was on my back. Never let that happen. It's never okay. Because I was thinking, is this a jail thing? Is this something that happens? And he assured me that it wasn't. So from that moment is when I said, I will never not write it up. And once I saw that inmate again, I felt uncomfortable. Instead of me being the officer that is here to make sure that the safety and the security and the good order is met in the facility, I was now nervous. I was looking around, wondering who knew that this happened to me. Who had he told? Who may try this again because I didn't say anything. I didn't speak up. The thing about it is that too much of what we go through is discretionary. So we're here because we want to take things out of other people's hands. The things that happen to me, it's discretionary upon whether the sergeant thinks it's important, whether the captain thinks it's important. It's under their discretion what happens, because I've had captains deal with things differently. I've had sergeants deal with things differently. And it's amazing that Anzaroli has been able to say that she's had a lot of people support her. And I've had other people thinking, do you think that it was on purpose? And so I say to them, has it ever happened to you? And do you know how many male officers it's happened to? Can you guess? Zero. So my classmates, I've asked them, how many times have you seen someone indecently expose themselves to you on purpose? They've not seen anyone do it on accident. So for someone to ask you, a colleague of yours, to ask you, do you think that it was on purpose? Of course it was on purpose, because everything is timed. These people know once you see me, it's 3 o'clock. Once you see me again, it's 3:30, because that's how we do our rounds. We do it strategically. Once you lock into your cell, you know that I have 2 more times to come past your cell. So I don't know how many of these DRs I've written at 10:30. At 10:30, because they know 10:30 is your last chance. I've had people that I've written up and, you're looking through the glass and you see these things. I've written people up and they went to the DR board and had a witness say that it's impossible for me to have seen that because they were talking to them through the vent in the concrete wall, which is amazing that someone would think to take merit into that. But the fact that he was able to bring a witness to his trial but I'm not privy to come and speak my piece. It's amazing to me.
Other than writing up these incidents, what disciplinary actions are currently being imposed on these inmates that do this?
When it first happens, nothing. It's been a time that I've ring someone up at 3:30. So I get into the building, I'm 3 to 11. I got in the building at 3 o'clock. I got to my post 3 o'clock. 3:30, I wrote someone up. And so now, of course, because this person decided that they were going to pretend to read the paper. So he has a paper in one hand and then his penis in the other hand, and he's masturbating. So I walk past and I'm flabbergasted because at 3:30, this has never happened to me. 10:30 yeah, but 3:30. So now later on, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, it's day room time. I do not let this inmate out. The sergeant comes on post because I immediately called and I let them know I'm writing this person up. I never give them, I think I might write them up. I'm writing them up just so you are aware that you are going to have paperwork and things to do. So I get the sergeant to come. The sergeant comes and says, "Where are they?" "In the cell." And he says, "Why?" "Because where else would he be after he sexually harassed me? Where else would he be?" And so he says, "Well, the captain said you have to let him out and he will have early day room, meaning that he will lock in early." And I said to the sergeant, "Who is he going to come out with? Because I'm not going to be here if this person is out. Because no one's realizing that I've been sexually harassed. All they know is that the inmate is supposed to have day room time. It's supposed to have a certain amount of time. He forfeited that when you broke a law in a jail. But that's the part that no one is understanding. And that is a clear sign that no one feels that is important. They don't ask you, are you okay? They don't go and speak to the inmate immediately. This is hours later. It happened at 3:30. This is now 5 o'clock. You're coming and asking me, where's the inmate? Someone should be up to speak to them. Someone should be up to speak with me. And of course, if nothing else, you should realize that I should not be on that block, or the inmate should not be on that block. But they say that it's not okay. They cannot penalize until they have been seen by the board.
Okay, I have a question. So are there any mental health services available for corrections officers when these things happen?
We do have the Blue Foundation. However, the Blue Foundation is currently, correct me if I'm wrong, run by a male captain. That particular male captain, Captain Martinez, I feel like he's great, but has he been in my shoes as a woman? Absolutely not. And even so, the Blue Foundation is more broad for mental health issues. It's not sexually based, sexual harassment based. There's no one, like I said, there's no immediate aftercare. This is an incident. If I see someone expose themselves, as Officer Williams was saying, I shouldn't wait 2-3 hours before something's done for the inmate, but even then, the whole procedure becomes strictly about the inmate. The disciplinary report I'm going to share, immediately after this incident happened, this was at 11 o'clock, Officer Simon and I, at one point, we were midnight officers, which is even worse, because when you go to say this inmate did this, that, or the third, they say, well, it's midnight. How do you know that he didn't know you were coming? Or how do you know that it was that inmate in particular? Even though, after a while, I've been in this building for 8 years, you see repeat offenders. I know what so-and-so sounds like. I know what this inmate sounds like. And when I'm doing my tour and I'm directly in front of his cell speaking to him, I also know who I'm speaking to. At 11 o'clock, I came in. The incident happened. 11:05, I walked into the housing control behind my block, and I let the sergeant know on the desk that I was not physically capable of hitting any more rings on that block. I didn't care if they moved me next door, across the hall, but I just had my fill. And I was told, okay, we're sending someone up. 11:30, my next tour is due, or my security ring's late. Nobody's there to relieve me yet. I call downstairs and let them know again, I can't go in there. I'm shaking. At this point, I might have to go to the hospital because I can't bear the thought of going in there. And as a woman, I'm just thinking, when I walk up the stairs, they're going to look at my body. When I hit that tour, after all the threats they just made, they're looking at my body. They're planning what they're going to do to me. And you feel almost as if they are doing it to you at that point. Around 11:45, I was relieved from my post. I was sent across the hall to a block that's very similar. And I was told later on that night by my female sergeant that when she was informed, she was actually very shocked at the report. She was great about it. She asked me if I wanted, she as a woman asked me if I wanted to go press outside charges on this inmate for the things he said to me, the threats of rape. I declined because I said, there's no way somebody's going to take a look at this disciplinary report and find him not guilty. There's no way. It's not going to happen. I have enough faith in my department. And sure enough, he was found not guilty with no sanctions. So she had informed me that the desk sergeant had let her know that I was being dramatic to come see me when she got the chance. And that's why she had came up so late, because she was busy and she had other things to do. And it was relayed to her as if I was being dramatic. I would like to share the disciplinary report. It is explicit. I'm sorry if I offend anyone in advance.
Okay. I mean, in all honesty, like, it's things are explicit, and if it's hard for you to hear, imagine it being done to you.
And like I said, I've been in this building for 8 years. I've heard and I've seen so many things. Like we make jokes. You never know. You always say never, but there's no never in corrections. Something can always happen that you would never think would happen. I have very thick skin, I would like to believe, but this night I just said, you know what? I believe I had maybe 6 years on the job, and I said I just had my fill. So this is my report. Upon walking into 2 Southeast for the start of my tour, inmate Jones yelled out, "Look at this, she's got a fat ass." I gave inmate Jones a direct order to stop harassing me and to settle down. He responded, "You go ahead and write that ticket real good, baby. I'm gonna rub it on my dick when I get it." He also stated, "That pussy's probably real wet, but I'm going to get you pregnant through your asshole," amongst other several vulgarities. Inmate Jones was able to get the majority of the block, and again, there's about 44 inmates on a block, to join him in yelling, "Fuck her in the booty hole. I hope that ass is real, and wait until she walks for her next ring. She's coming." Inmate Jones told me that he had something for me on my next tour and that I could suck his dick so he could come on my face. Inmate Jones yelled to me, "Don't work days, baby." And at this point, we were getting forced as midnight officers quite frequently to work days. Or we'll gangbang you. Inmate Jones did not comply with any orders to stop.
So, what can the county do to make your work environment safer? Is there anything that we can do to help you? Because I think this is just, over the top, and something really needs to be done.
Can I just,
All right.
I've been asking for this on a state level.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you guys can help us out on the county level.
Yes.
If you're violent in jail, right, you have a violent inmate program,
Mhm.
we should have sexual deviant programs.
Mhm.
So if I'm the type that I can't control masturbating when Miss Williams comes on my block, one ticket, okay, one ticket, you get 2 tickets. At some point, they have to be removed from the general pop and maybe put into, and in jail, you're not welcome really to be into a sexual predator. It's not something you want to be labeled.
Right.
So that might end a little bit of itself. I just wanted to bring one thing up with the masturbation part too. They have like, their toilets are inside their cells, right? You don't see them go number 2 in the toilet. You know why? Because they put a thing up, so because everybody wants their privacy. So for the story of, hey, you just caught me by accident. No, you didn't. Because if you want to masturbate in private, put your curtain up so they don't have to see you. So it's purposeful, especially when, again, sometimes they might do it in bed. If somebody's standing at your cell door and they're looking at you eye to eye and they're doing that, that's sexual deviance. That,
Add on to what he said about we have a violent offender program. So I've worked that program, and I've been sexually harassed twice on that program. And at that program, they also have civilians that come in, which are tasked with running programs with them, speaking with them. it's kind of a therapeutic situation where they share experiences, I guess, why they're violent or what makes them angry. And when I made my DRs, their workers weren't notified because it's a program where if they pass this program, they get less time on their sentence. And it looks good to the courthouse and to the judge. So now, if I'm telling you that not only is he a violent offender, he's also sexual deviant. It's negligent for you not to let that be known to the judge or to whoever is in charge of this program. Because like everyone keeps on mentioning, jail is supposed to be rehabilitative. If we are ignoring the issues that are going on, which is that some of these people are sexual deviants, and it may have been something that they were doing outside, it may have been something that they just learned ill. It's negligent for us to now put these people back on the street, knowing that they've added something to their criminal toolbox. Because now, once I have my paperwork, if someone were to find out, oh, they've been doing this in jail and now they went and raped a woman, it's just that we've emboldened them to move on to something else.
So the legislation that's at the state level right now, how can this help this situation?
I think with consequences, behavior sometimes stops. Right? So if we can, like I said, I'm gonna speak on the state level. The stalking part, so we're fortunate, the groping in this place is minimal compared to state facilities. So thank God for that nature. A lot of our harassment is, again, sexual masturbation, the threats of rape, and that falls under this, which would be a misdemeanor. But if somebody's in there and they know they're getting out in 3 months because they did whatever, and they have another 6 months, that may curtail it. You know what I'm saying? And then if you got a second misdemeanor on that, maybe it goes up to a felony charge. But there has to be some consequences.
But as I said before, since I've been in corrections, I've always said never say never. I've seen things in there. I've seen people eat their feces. I've seen people do things you would never even think to do. So never say never, because us as women, even as men, all of our officers, we go into that jail with just a body alarm. That's it. So never say never. The groping might be minimal, but there's going to be that person who needs mental health treatment or even just doesn't and gets the urge and tries to pull one of us in a cell with them one day with just that body alarm. And they know what that alarm is for. So if I were them, the first thing I'm going for is take that body alarm off of her. And they will plan. They make a false fight, make somebody think they're fighting, so the attention's on the fight, and then grab Officer Williams. Never say never. And like Officer Williams said, I'm from Yonkers. I just recently moved to Dutchess County because I can't go to the supermarket and see 10 inmates that threatened to rape me last week. I just can't do it. As far as what the county can do, I do believe this is at a state level. We're losing a lot of ability to sanction these inmates. The least we can do is possibly make our female officers more open to pressing outside charges. If someone exposes themselves outside, okay, I can't put them on key block, but guess what? You just added a charge to your sentence now. If you've exposed yourself outside, you'd go on the sex offender registry. You should be if you're incarcerated too. You don't go into complete lawlessness when you come into jail. It's called corrections. We're supposed to be correcting your behavior, not enabling it once you come into our walls. And like I said, SVU and stuff, when rapes happen to victims often say the attention went completely on the perp. And the same thing happens to us. We go through the disciplinary system, but where's our mental health? What happens when we start saying, I can't come back to work? I shake when I walk into certain blocks. If I see certain inmates, I shake. If I even know somebody's coming, my body goes into fight or flight, and I can be in the easiest post in the jail and I'm in a full sweat and I feel exhausted just from my body's reaction to this gentleman here. So I think when it comes to the county, mental health, definitely. support of our female officers, but I believe this is definitely on a state level now at this point. We need to be able to pursue charges.
Okay, Legislator, Alvarado, did you have a question?
No, not a question, but first of all, I wanna thank the officers for sharing their sad experiences with us. This is unbelievable to me, that this is actually happening at this level. But I think we need a plan of action. How many of us know of stories of people that we fear just because they're intense people? Never mind, they're in jail and they still make me afraid. So how can we partner with the state to begin to penalize this behavior? Yes, please.
Chairwoman Clements, I would like to respond a little bit, please.
Yes, Commissioner Spano, go right ahead.
Always nice to meet with all of the county legislators, and I too would begin by thanking our 3 female correction officers for publicly talking about some of their very difficult and horrific situations. Few points I want to make, and at no time will I make an excuse for any type of poor behavior from any of our residents. It is upsetting to me to hear that our female correction officers did not receive the support and proper guidance from our supervisors. As Neil Pallone, who is sitting right there, will tell you, that's unacceptable behavior for me. And generally, when something of that nature occurs, it's brought to my attention. What our female officers testified to regarding the disciplinary procedures being watered down to the point where they serve as very little deterrent right now, that is accurate, especially with the recent passage of HALT. The verbal abuse in a correctional setting, regardless of the fact that, we operate under the very best standards in the country, we go to great lengths to protect every level of our workforce and our residents. We have 1,300 cameras in place. We do have a body alarm system, but even when a resident is disciplined and is cell-bound, he or she is not prohibited from espousing some of these horrible things. And that's where you can help us. Neil talked about stalking in the third. That recommendation came from us after we reviewed this bill. We don't think it addresses the core issues that were discussed here today. We have to have legislative protections in place that will serve as a deterrent for this type of verbal abuse and threats and sexual in nature to our female correction officers. Right now, we have to lean on our internal disciplinary processes, which continue to be watered down. So that's where you can help us. I actually think it should go beyond stalking in a third, and there should be a real collaborative effort to specifically address. And when I say collaborative, I include the DA's office, because they're the individuals who will be processing these cases. And they have been a great partner in recent years to process, assault cases, because over time, and I'm proud to have participated in this, we have increased the penalties for assaults on correction officers. And we have a DA who's willing to process those cases. And I have no doubt she would be willing to process these cases, but we have to get this legislation correct. Internally, I will meet myself and DCDS. As always, we meet with the union leadership all the time. If they feel that there's a breakdown as it relates to our disciplinary procedures or providing support to our correction staff, we want to know about it. And Neil will tell you, we react immediately. We don't want anybody coming into our workplace uncomfortable or fearing to take a post. That's not how we function here. But the reality of it as well, and every correction officer who I speak to in an academy, I will tell them you're entering one of the most complicated professions there is. And that's a correction officer in general, because they will be subjected to verbal abuse and things of this nature. Being a female correction officer and working with male residents takes that to a new level. So we not only support legislative enhancements and protections in these areas, we recommended stalking in the third, but we don't think it goes far enough.
All right, thank you for that.
If I can just piggyback, I'm sorry. Madam
Okay,
Chair.
okay, go right ahead.
Commissioner Spano and Deputy Commissioner Diaz, they're correct. When I sent them the state legislation, they helped speak to the DA and try to look for avenues that we can charge inmates. Because again, you can't just wait for groping and touching, because that, what we're hearing about it is, it's too late. So thanks to the two commissioners, they're the ones that sent this to me the other day and we produced it. So thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, I would like Legislator Smith would like to go now.
Thank you, and thank you for again coming in and being willing to share your stories with us. Thank you, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner, for joining us as well. Neil, for being the driving force behind getting us here today, along with Officer Williams, of course. And I think what strikes me probably the clearest of everything that's been said here today is when I'm reading your last name.
Ganzaroli.
Officer Ganzaroli said, if you were to say this or do these things outside of a correctional facility, you'd be arrested for it. And if it's in fact true that we are continually trying to improve the rehabilitative nature of corrections, then it would also seem to me to make sense. We want to create environments where this behavior is less likely to happen inside a correctional facility, as opposed to right now where it seems, like you said, it's basically kind of a free-for-all, and it's more likely to happen. Now, of course, in a perfect world, lots of things would be different, but obviously that's the direction that we need to be moving in. It's one that I think certainly I am supportive of. Senator Clemens, and I think most of us are. And so with respect to this this item here, is this sort of a request to incorporate more like a greater penalty for the stalking? Because the stalking is obviously, it's already a crime under the penal law, but
Would like to put that into behind the walls. The stalking inside there is the same stalking from the street, so
Right.
we'd like to see it put into the legislation.
that it be
It would be a charge. I
okay.
just want to add one thing as well. We talk about keep lock, and I'm not sure if everybody knows what keep lock is here. What's that?
No, I was gonna
Oh.
say some of the language that was used was
Oh,
clearly
sorry, jail
jargon.
jargon.
Yes.
Yes.
Some inmate, Officer Williams catches an inmate masturbating, she writes a ticket, a disciplinary report. Even if they're found guilty, they'll lose $25 of fee, and they're,
Sometimes. And they'll have a friend by them.
and they, and they used to be held to keep lock, which was you were out for rec and you were out for an hour a day. So you had a penalty to pay. With some of the state legislation and the friendliness to the inmate population in a way, again, the deterrent's gone, right? So now Halt just got passed. DC, if you don't mind me asking, how long do they have to be out of the cell now on keep lock?
1.5 hours.
So 7.5 hours, but Neil, if I can comment quickly, it's important to note, in 2012, the Department of Justice passed, they promulgated standards on, it's called Prisoner Rape Elimination Act, right? And while this act is really important to prevent sexual abuse, it really just protects the inmates, right? It protects against inmate on inmate assault. It protects against staff on inmate assaults, not just sexual abuse, but sexual harassment, voyeurism, right? So it demands outside charges. And then if an officer is found guilty, there's a presumption of termination, right, in a hearing. On the flip side, there wasn't a thought process to put those protections in for officers, right? We have a lot of charges that you can charge, but they involve some kind of touching, right? Forcible touching, rape. The public lewdness laws, if I was to masturbate in the street, don't apply to a cell because there's this expectation of privacy within a cell, even though we know they're doing it, like the officer said, they're timing it, right? So there's really no penalty. Then we go to, well, we can't charge them on the outside. We'll write them up for disciplinary charges. And where Neil said it was 23-hour lockdown and an hour of hygiene,
And
then it
loss
went
of privileges.
and loss of privileges. Then it went to 4 hours out of cell, and you couldn't take away their privileges. And then now recently with Holt, you let them out 7.5 hours a day, right? So the average individual gets 10 out. The average individual that doesn't commit an offense gets 10 hours out of his cell. But this guy who just threatened to assault an officer, right, sexually, comes out for 2.5 hours less for the day, right? So what is the consequence, really?
So I know there's a couple of the legislators want to speak,
Yeah.
but just the last thing I'll just say is, additionally to the fact that what's not tolerated on the outside should be less tolerated on the inside. I also think, it's important to recognize that, especially female officers who sign up to do this job, have a right to go into a workplace where they're not under threat of sexual assault, harassment, exposure, and all the other things that go along with that. And I think the idea, or at least, sometimes I think, there's this sense out there, well, this is just how it is. And so, this is just, but I want to say to you, I do not believe that for 1 second. I don't think that you should, I have, a couple of your coworkers who I live a few doors down from me. I see them, I talk with them quite frequently, and I know the type of work you do, but you deserve to be treated with the same respect and not be subject to the same violence, whether it's physical or otherwise, as anybody else. So definitely support you on that as well.
Good, thank you. Legislator Barr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, thank you to the corrections officers who were here, who've told us their stories. Obviously, that sounds very traumatic. And as you've heard, nobody here thinks that is appropriate and that you should be treated that way. I also want to add just my little personal story, which I've told at this table before. My sister works in a state forensic mental health facility, and I've heard stories from there about people who work there being attacked, and of course in that scenario they're even less, I think, they're being treated with more sort of freedom than in a prison setting. So it is definitely a difficult situation that has not been figured out yet. Having said all of that, because we are a county legislature and not a state legislature, these are not the kinds of things that most of us know a lot about in terms of what the laws are, what they've been, what conversations there have been. We did support, and the reason we told you we're coming is because we did support the state making tougher laws that would help protect corrections officers like yourselves. So we do support that. But again, these are not the laws that we make. We can only say, hey, we think this is a good idea. And I'm a little confused about some of the things I heard. For example, if I heard correctly, I think one of the first things you said, Mr. Pallone, was something about bail reform. And I haven't heard how this is connected to bail reform at all. So is there some connection that you believe there is to the changes in the bail law that have made this worse or contributed to this? Because I don't understand that, and I would like to if that's the case.
Sure.
Again, that's not our law, but you know, I certainly would like to know how you think it's connected.
Yes, how it's connected is jail, before bail reform, people were remanded for other certain crimes, right? So you had a percentage of dangerous criminals, you had a percentage of this, X, Y, and Z. Those people were in the street. And we're not saying, hey, they shouldn't be in the street, but you're now concentrated. Your jail population are people now that are serious enough to be remanded. So these housing units, because we've been at this table before, we talk about staffing levels, right? So the staffing levels of all these dangerous people together are like a powder keg for my officers that walk around and ready to go boom. You can't dilute with the less serious, dangerous criminals. So does that make where the bail reform comes in?
I understand what I understand what you're saying. So, and you know, it's not like, so it's more sort of condensed and
It's concentrated. And if
concentrated.
And
Okay.
if we try to spread it out, I'm sure at a different legislation meeting, we would hear, why do you have so many officers and can't you condense them and concentrate the dangerous people together?
Right. So, okay. So now I understand what you're talking about. The other thing that I didn't understand is what, obviously when these changes, and I'm not that familiar with HALT either. I mean, I forget, I know it, if somebody wants to just remind me what that is, HALT.
So HALT is humane alternative to solitary confinement. So it came about years ago. It was really a DOC prison system failure where they were putting guys in shoes, special housing units, for months and years. That was never being done in the county jails, but when the law was passed, county jails were thrown into that, right? And had to suffer the consequences of all that HALT required, which is 7.5 hours out of cell.
Got it. Okay. And you know, and we've certainly heard, you know, why that's considered more humane and so forth, and that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is when these laws were passed by the state and when they were, you know, made applicable to the county, were these discussions had with our state representatives? I mean, I can't imagine this is the first time that this is being discussed at a table. So I'm curious what has happened with the state, because this is certainly something that should be discussed with those legislators.
Yeah, from the onset of all of the new confinement regulations, and you know, we have collaborated with all of the New York State jails and the New York State Sheriff's Association and raised our concerns throughout the entire process. And we have collaborated directly with the State Commission of Correction, and as recently as last week, to articulate our concerns and the potential operational impact, as well as the safety impact on our staff and residents. So, but it didn't seem to make a difference. So and you know, I mean, everybody on this call understands how we feel about rehabilitation and what we do in terms of programs and services, but we need to have the right balances in place because we do have a complicated environment. We do have a lot of folks, as articulated earlier, who were struggling with serious mental illness, and you all know about all we do to treat those individuals, more so here than probably any other jail in New York State. But that doesn't cut off that poor behavior that has been discussed here today. So this, again, I think the stalking 3 is critically important, but I think with the right collaboration with the DA's office, we could implement other changes to this legislation that would directly impact what's going on you know, at the local jail level, some of which was articulated here today by our 3 female correction officers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously that's something that definitely needs to be done. And I want to assure the 3 female corrections officers
Whoa, Big Brother shut me down. Big Brother shut me down. I guess it was too hot. I guess the testimony was too damn hot that they shut me down. Um, for y'all that are watching, I don't know what happened, but they just shut me down. So if you were watching, if you're still watching, we're back. So I'm not that was it. But I want to make I want to make some points for those that watch the video. I want to make some points. So here we go. We, even all law enforcement, we question the HALT bill. So you're going to allow somebody, if somebody's out in the street and they touch you, they grab your butt, something like that, you want him to go to jail. So you want him removed from society, right? That's what you want to do. But when he's in the jail, his only punishment is being locked in his cell only 2 hours a day. So what would you think a predator will continue to do if his only punishment is being put in his cell 2 hours a day? You not only put the civilian staff corrections, but you put other inmates in danger because there's no penalty. There's no penalty in that. But you want us to treat what you call residents in a humane fashion, but yet you forget about our humanity, or even the good inmates that are obeying the rules and regulations of the facility. I think that's very interesting that Deputy Commissioner Diaz brought up, and also, it's election time, right? We're at election time, so the Prison Rape Elimination Act, PREA, has no protections for correction officers, only inmates. So we're going to believe that inmates are the only ones that get raped in jail, not civilians, not correction officers. we don't get raped. And no, it doesn't happen. So I guess there's just hour of early testimony, Congress people and U.S. senators, this hour of testimony that we just had right here, that we just listened to these brave women. That's just it don't mean anything, because you put prayer in and it doesn't even protect correction officers or civilians. Waste of legislation. So, legislator Nancy Barr, she mentioned when the state was doing these, she asked a question. The question was, when the state was doing these pieces of legislation, who did they talk to? They didn't talk to nobody. It's like the bail reform. They didn't talk to anybody. They just made it because it was the fun thing to do. That's what happened. Black law enforcement organizations didn't support all this. And Black law enforcement organizations were more out front on police brutality and accountability of the justice system and racial, but we didn't support all that. This nonsense. We didn't support all that. So, I wanted to read something, and I think it's I think it would behoove municipalities, county. I think it will behoove county and state municipalities, those municipalities that have correction facilities, to actually move on this legislation when it comes to facilities and sexual harassment of all officers. It says that the courts have already ruled that prison agencies are liable for the sexual harassment of their employees. In 2003, a federal jury awarded $600,000 in damages to a state correction officer who said she was fired after complaining that naked male prisoners was harassing her. In 2010, 14 female prison nurses in Florida was awarded $45,000 each after the jury found that the prison management failed to stop verbal harassment and masturbation in front of the nurses. The New York Times also reported that female officers who make up half of the uniformed staff down in Rikers were high risk of being sexually assaulted by inmates. Now, correction officers report significant rates of depression, physical health problems, which include stress-related illnesses, heart attacks, blood pressure, ulcers, burnout, compassion fatigue, work-home conflict, divorce, and even a shortened lifespan. Correction officers' average lifespan is 18 months after retirement, while the average age of death is 58. Correction officers self-reported statistically significantly more exposure to psychological trauma events than wellness services employees. Correction officers self-reported high rates of symptoms of mental disorders, including PTSD, social anxiety, panic disorder, and depression. Correction officers have more cases of PTSD than active military personnel who've been in combat. Facts. So I think that it really needs to be addressed. The needs in these jails. And again, big shout out to these female correction officers. Hats go off to them. And I like to end on this. One of the reasons I'm showing this video, because a sergeant, I want you to listen up. A sergeant came to me jokingly, basically said, Neil Pallone has some nerve. And there were witnesses, there's officers, and actually one of the female officers that testified was sitting in control when he said this to me, jail control. Basically, like, they had some nerve to testify at the county. And I told him that I was proud of these girls, and he had some nerve to not do anything about it as a supervisor. So this is the attitude. This is the attitude. And if wardens are watching, I don't care who's watching. But this is the attitude. Y'all know where I'm at. This is the attitude of some of these supervisors to think that this is actually a joke. It's not a joke. And I told, and let me tell you, the sergeant, I told Pallone who you are. And I hope he addresses your ass. I hope he addresses you. I'm not going to blow you up here, but that you damn well know I went back and told Pallone. So, my man AJ Woodson, Black Westchester Magazine. This is Black Westchester Magazine, and we
yeah,
at the end. But I just wanted to make sure, you know, I
missed all the fun.
Yeah, but you know, the reason why I decided to show this live is because I'm trying to write my article. Hopefully I could get it done tonight. And the main thing about it is, and also I was just saying before you came on, you know, I was approached by a sergeant over in the jail, and basically, you know, the way I took it, that he was joking about the testimony of these women. And I, you know, like Pallone had some nerve. You know, basically he was saying, "What's up with your boy?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Pallone," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He had some nerve to bring the girls in front of the legislature. I was like, "Well, you have some nerve not to do anything about it as a supervisor." Right. Like, this is the attitude. This is the attitude that we have, and this is why these girls had to go to the county legislators, because they get no sympathy from the supervisors. For him to say that to me, I told Pallone who he was. I'm not going to blow him up publicly. But if I see the commissioner, I'm going to tell him too. You know, we have to take this seriously. And I hope the county legislators that's watching, they need to take this seriously too. And I understand it's state laws. I mean, but we could take away their video calls. Those are not rights. Their video visits, that's not a right. If you wanna, if you wanna have a video visit, you take it away and let him tell his grandmother or his girlfriend why his video visit was taken away. Because he's up there masturbating in front of a female officer. Let him tell his girlfriend that. Let him tell his wife that. Let him tell his grandmother that. Why his grandmother got to get her ass on the 40 bus now to come see him. Let him tell him that. Take the commissary. They got too much goddamn commissary anyway. You got inmates in there with damn near 200 soups. What the hell are you gonna do with 200 soups? Take their
Like dress soup?
commissary privileges away for a
Wait,
month.
dress suits?
No, soups. Them little
Oh,
packages of
soup.
Yeah, them
Wow.
lo mein noodle soups. Who has 200 packs of soups? It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
That's money in jail, huh? Soup?
Yeah, that's
You
it.
can trade it for
No, that's money, and that's capitalism. That's capitalism. You know, they give the inmates, they give the inmates what they call it? They give the inmates COVID bonuses for working. We can't get no COVID bonus. They give them COVID.
What's a COVID bonus?
For working in the pandemic. They get a pandemic bonus. Where we can't get a goddamn pandemic bonus. 80, and we added it up. 80%. It's up to 80. It's damn near equals out to 80% increase in their wages so they could buy more commissary, but we can't even get a raise. Go figure. Go figure.
That's crazy.
You know, so man, listen, I try not to talk about it, but I had to post it, and that's about it, bro. And I hope people watch it. Well, I
Now
think
we're gonna share it. Make sure everybody watches it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody, if anybody got a problem with me posting it, thank that sergeant that said that bullshit to me. I wasn't gonna post it, but now it's live. It's up on YouTube, and it's on Blacks in Law Enforcement because I forgot the Black Westchester password again. But it's on Blacks in Law Enforcement of America.
Yo. Okay. Yo, so the sergeant is gonna be the new member of the Damn That Damon Club.
I would have gotten away if it wasn't for Black Westchester.
Damn that Damon. That's crazy.
No, but I think, I mean,
oh, man, yes.
we don't talk about that, man. Like we don't talk about the issues and what correction officers go through. And I think it's sad. We like to, you get the president and everybody, police, because they're out front. But we don't talk about, what the correction officers go through. And the changes that we have made, in reform. Commissioner Spano said in the video, I think we have 128 cameras in the jail. Right? We got more cameras in the jail than some police departments got police officers.
Wow.
And we might have more than that. But he said a large number. And I believe it. So, you got to be extra.
Yeah, I just want to say, yo, when you first sent me the link and I was listening to the female officers testify or share their story. Yo, I only watched like 5 minutes of that. Like, and I was just like, yo, what? So I just stepped in. You probably covered all that. That was like they were sharing that with what the county like legislators or what? That's what that
Yeah,
was, or
yeah, the county
what?
legislature.
What did the county legislators do or say, or what was their response? Because I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just disgusted. Like just watch. I was like, yo, word, like.
So basically, I mean, you know, we politics, you kick the can to the next level of government, right? So I've been dealing with politicians for 30 years, and it's quick to say, oh, we got to put it on state. Oh, it's got to be federal legislation. We support, because it has to change the state law, right? So really, the county can't do anything, and they have to put it on the state law. But I say to that is that sometimes you don't have time, because I believe it's going to be a ripple effect. You can't have the criminal justice system literally in balance. You can't have that. We want, when you talk about when you talk about reform, it's a balance. It's not protecting. It's not protecting those who do crime, right? It's protecting those who, unfortunately, like first time offenders. Like, we want to get to these first time offenders to make sure that they never come back to the facility again. That's what the ideal was, and those nonviolent infractions that sometimes people just have to do to live. But when it gets to the point when you want to assault people and you want to hurt people, unless you're mentally ill, and there's a lot of mental illness out there, there's a lot of mental illness out there, and you have to be able to separate all that. But at the end of the day, man, when you knocking grandma on the head, and you out of jail before she get out of the hospital, there's a problem, right? Because the community, like if we're doing that, the community, and it's usually Black communities and brown communities and poor communities, how do they heal? Because you ain't got no programs out there, right? There's no programs. So how are they healing, right? We're not putting money into training and making these young boys be electricians and all that. We ain't investing in that, right? So we're not doing. We understand that a lot of these things are social problems, but we're not putting. We're not creating a social safety net and social programs to keep them away from crime and violence, right? We're not doing right to prevent crime and violence. We're not doing that. We're just saying, we just don't want you to go to jail. We don't want you to go to jail, but we're not going to put these institutions together. I always said, a first time kid, sentence him to Westchester Community College. How about that? Sentence him to Westchester Community College, and free. You ain't got no. This is your sentence to go get your associate's degree. And if you don't get your associate's degree, you're going to jail. We need to start doing that. They'll come out better, some of them, and some of them still won't go. And guess what? They need to go then, right? If they don't want to go and get a degree in something to get a job, then send their ass to jail. As simple as that. Sometimes we have to have self-responsibility and self-accountability.
Didn't
And
they
if
used
we
to have?
don't have that, then what are we talking about?
Didn't they used to have those programs? You go to the military, you go to jail.
They used to do that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, I've heard people say like that saved their life. Like
They used to
that
do that.
that put them on a whole new path. But I mean, we don't talk about the problems, the lack of services, like you're saying, that lead to these things happening. That cause these problems. We don't look at arresting them and corrections shouldn't be called corrections because it don't correct anything. Sometimes people learn how to be better criminals. Like they you know what I'm saying? It don't correct them. Like I don't know, though.
Well, they got more programs in jail than they got in the street.
Yeah. Also, it's a shame when I hear brothers, and I said this before on another live. It's a shame when I hear brothers tell you they thank you that you were the only father figure that they ever had. So that means they had to be incarcerated to find a father figure to them. You know what I'm saying? Like that says a lot about society right now.
It's still that way. Ain't nothing changed.
Yeah.
The only thing changed is I don't have as much inmate contact as I used to 10, 15 years ago. Right? So, but there's still young men and women who work those blocks who play that role. But we shouldn't allow them to disrespect female officers. That's
absolutely not.
Right? And I think this is a conversation, that really needs to be had, on a state level, not just by law enforcement organizations. Like, where are the women organizations? These are women, right? Y'all forget, all these women organizations, all these sororities out here. You see these women talking about what they go through, and nobody says anything, right? Nobody says anything. Y'all talk about women power. Then why don't you empower these women? Why don't your female organizations empower these women? See, we got to the point that we think a lot of this stuff is a game. Is a game. See, when I came in 1990 and we heard about it, we wasn't disrespecting no female officer. If we heard about it, you got tuned the fuck up. Straight music. But we ain't like that no more, right? We are kind of friendly of jail, and we don't do things like that no more because we evolved. But still, it has to be a point of accountability. And when these state legislators, backed by these organizations that a lot of them run by former inmates, and then they're not talking to the people that are level-head reformists. And I remember I had a talk with somebody, and I said, "Yo, that bill's gonna get somebody killed." And they looked at me like I had 9 heads. So I keep it moving. And here we are today. Yo, when you listen to the thing, Commissioner Diaz said something crazy, right? He said that the Halt bill, under the Halt bill, the inmate that's punished, right? Stays out of the cell 7.5 hours. So he only loses, the average inmate is out of his cell 10 hours a day. So the inmate can knock you out, AJ, knock you out, and only have to be in his cell 7.5 hours a day. So what's the punishment? 2 hours? 2 hours?
Did they do anything? Did they do anything with the budget? Isn't they weren't supposed to add some reform to the budget? Did any of that
Well,
happen?
it's supposed to be bail. It's supposed to be. They're supposed to change the bail reform. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to find that. But I don't think they did anything. But I'm going to just say this to a lot of these Democrats: November's going to be a rough one. November is going to be a rough one because you have the bail reform, you have the HALT bill, you have people talking about, and I feel some of y'all went too far. You went too far. And now, the arrogance is you don't want to turn it back. And what's going to happen in November, it's going to be a lot of people voting Republican. Because it's crazy out here.
You know what's crazy about that? So we needed some sort of reform.
Exactly.
And there was obviously some fault with the reform, and the reform needed to be reformed. And by not doing that, it's going to cost them seats. It's going to put Republicans in control, and it's going to take away any reform.
Exactly.
So, like, we're going to go from one extreme to the other extreme. So like, right. So by reforming it, you know what I'm saying? Like you at least we get something that we need still. I don't get it, but they won't get it until the Republicans is running things. They take away all reform.
Exactly.
Mass incarceration of the black men again, and then everybody's gonna be complaining, oh my God, how did we get here? And you, the public, you, the voters, have to do a better job. You have to hold your elected officials accountable. You have to speak to your representatives. You have to demand change. And if you don't, what we gonna get?
But
everybody gonna complain.
But you know what's crazy? Nobody's happy either way, right? Look at New York City. Boom, 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 boom. Gunshots all over. Boom, 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 boom. He put the team out. They start locking people up. Oh, dirty bastard cops. Dirty bastard cops. Dirty bastard cops. Look at these cops. Gestapo cops. Because this and that. You can't. I mean, you can't win. You damn if you do, and if you damn if you don't. You damn if you do, if you damn if you don't, right? And people get killed. Mothers is crying. Fathers is crying. People out there saying, stop crime and violence. Bring the peace. Streets needs peace. The police come out, start arresting people, get guns off the street. Dirty fucking cops. I mean, you damned if you do, and you damned if you don't. So what do?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's like we complain about everything. Like, what do you want? I'm gonna ask the people, what do you want? So senseless violence in our streets right now is crazy. And we all know that the violence rises as the mercury rises. It ain't even get hot yet. And it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So you're demanding, you got victims of, family members of victims of senseless violence demanding something be done. You got people complaining about all this violence, which led to, a teenager stabbing another teenager. You know what I'm saying? Like a couple of weeks ago here in Mount Vernon. what do you want law enforcement to do? What do you want what do you want them to do? Now, I'm not advocating for stop, question, and frisk was going a little too far before. I mean, there was a lot of people just getting snatched up for no reason. As Corey called the jump out boys. You know what I'm saying? You know, with no uniforms and nothing, they just jumping out on you, and you jump out on the wrong people, and they don't know who you are. They're gonna clap back real quick. So what's the answer? So you put down you're gonna have to meet violence with something. Like you just can't we can't pray it away by itself. We can't, oh my God, I hope it gets better. What's the answer? What do you as the people want? I mean, and believe me, I'm the first one out there. You just check my resume, Google my name, look at Black Westchester, to stand up against police brutality and criminality, abusive policies and procedures, along with Damon and a lot of others. So, you know, before anybody goes there, you know what I'm saying? But you want the people. Hey, in the 80s, we all demanded something was done with the crack epidemic, and that led to the crime bill that caused the mass incarceration of Black people that we complaining about now. And then we was like, yo, what the hell? When we ask for something, we have to be specific in what we want. Everybody was saying we needed bail reform. Y'all demanded bail reform. But y'all didn't say what y'all wanted exactly. And you got it. And this is the result.
Yeah, but I also
you went a little too far with it.
But I also think it's the legislature's responsibility to do their proper research instead of just throwing a bill together just to say they have a bill, because it's the chic thing. That conversation is chic at the moment, you know, and we had this conversation, like, you know, 1 month you got the mayor of New York City, you know, going after that trap rap stuff, and then
right.
And then you have a senator saying, no, that's art. You know, that's art. It can't be used against you in criminal court. You're right. You know, we can't put legislations together to tickle people's fancy, you know, to say we doing something, you know, and I think the bail reform and the halt was that, because, you know, and a lot of the white progressives was on it, but I mean, this affects our communities, right? It don't affect white communities, right? It don't it and the halt bill, you know, whether you're county, New York City or state, you know, these are Black and brown people that work up in the majority, you know, and when we do these things, we forget who we are affecting, right? And my understanding, you know, bail reform it was just supposed to be first time offenders, first time nonviolent offenders,
And that's what first time
nonviolent
nonviolent offenders, people that were arrested for like smoking weed or
exactly
like things
what they call quality of life crimes,
right? And they didn't have bail, and they ended up sitting in jail for months and months and months because they didn't have bail. Or you had like Raynette Turner, who stole $35 worth of crab legs and didn't get a death appearance ticket and sat in jail because she didn't have bail and then ended up dying in jail.
right.
Those are situations, but we're not talking about people that are arrested for abusing, for beating up on their spouses, or for robbing somebody, or, you know, it's funny because it's like I guess the criminals pay attention more to what it says than anybody else. Because as long as you don't do it something that's this level or of this much crime, you know you're gonna walk away with it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's. Am I making myself clear? Like, you know, what is with
No,
like
you're right.
if you as long as you don't steal this much money or this much, you good. No,
Right.
but it wasn't supposed to be, at least when it was explained, at least when, you know, people came on our show and talked about it. State elected officials. I'm for all of that. And it wasn't supposed to include anything violent. Anything violent. When you got a husband that beats on his wife and he's not out on and he out on and he's not he gets a disappearance ticket and goes home and beats up again, and maybe this time he's gonna kill her. You know what I'm saying, for telling.
Right.
Like those there's something serious. And you know, I know I said stuff like you can't have a CCRB with police officers involved, but you might need somebody with experience in law and policing to be involved.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
you might need you might not CCRB. You might not want the police commissioner because people don't want to go in the police department when they want to complain about the police. But then you need someone who's an expert in policing, whether maybe lawyers or I don't know what experts, but someone who could advise the elected officials. You know, this is what we need, but we want to make sure that it's just this group of people, but everybody else, you know, is up to the judge. You know, whether they get bail or whatever, and stuff like that. So. I don't know, man. This is not what that was explained to me. I was with how it was explained to me, and I was like, "Yo, it's about time that they did something." And we asked elected officials on our show, "What about violent? What crimes are included in this no cash bail?" And we've had them come on our show and explain it. I need to go back and find those interviews and find out who was telling us what. Because this was a concern then, because people were like, yo, they was like, no, not violent crimes and not these crimes. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I know I sat across from them in the studio and they explained this stuff.
Right.
So when I heard people saying that, they letting out killers or they letting out people who commit, I was like, I'm saying what I was told. Nah, this is not supposed to include that.
And I was having a conversation with somebody, and I said, "Yo, they're saying that the judges it has no discretion." They're saying that's not true. That's not true. And then you got the mayor's like, "Judge ain't got no." The mayor New York City judge don't have discretion, right? So and then they want to blame the judges and saying the judges is just letting people out, and the judges are saying we're tied by the law, right? So everybody's pointing their finger at it, and what happened? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man, you can't expect, and then you get a guy that's locked up in jail, misses a court date in Yonkers, and get $100,000 bail. Like, how does that like?
There was discretion there, right? There was like there was a whole lot of discretion there. But like we had a judge come on recently, and they were saying that the prosecutors have a certain discretion to ask for certain things, and if they don't ask for it, they can't rule on it. I don't remember. I can pull up. I can share. Anybody wants to see that? Right. I can share that interview because I can only tell you what was said on the show. But this is what I wanted to say though. Every state senator and assembly person is up for re-election this year. Every one of them is about to run in some kind of a primary, and they're going to come to your church and they're going to come to your organization, and they're going to have town hall and forums and stuff, and they are going to ask for your vote. This is your time, the voting public, the registered voters, to say and ask specific questions about this bail reform stuff. What is included? If we vote you back in, or if we vote you in, what you gonna do to fix this thing? And let them tell you. And if they don't have a plan, there you go. You have a decision to make. And whoever is hosting any debates between these individuals that's running in primaries, that needs to be a series of questions on that. And they need to have to answer these questions before anybody casts a vote in this June primary. That's if it's still in June, because if the redistricting map don't get fixed up in the appeal thing, and if the appellate thing depend on Janet DeFiore, I'm not too confident about that. The primary could be pushed all the way back to like the end of August or something like that. But whenever this primary is, you all have an opportunity. Politics is a participatory sport. We like to blame a lot of things on elected officials. They did because you voted them in.
Yep.
This is your job as much. You complain, and I hear a lot of complaints. And I especially hear a lot of complaints from people who are the same people telling me, giving me reasons why they don't vote and why their vote don't count.
Right. Right.
So that's what I'm talking about, this whole voting thing. This is your opportunity right here. You're not happy with it? You're not registered, register and vote. And ask these questions and find out about these candidates and look these candidates up and see what their record is and what they have to say. Anybody holding debate, ask these questions. Anybody, they want to come to your church, they want to speak to y'all and they want to ask for your vote in any setting, y'all ask these questions. They don't want to answer them or they don't have good answers, then you know what to do.
Yeah.
Because y'all put them in office. And I'm telling you, if you do not, listen, real serious. I know we talk about this Trump dude in the background, but Republicans can take over the state Senate, Republicans can take over the state assembly, and the Republicans can take over the governorship. Believe it or not, it can happen. And if you get the right governor, they can even come down on the county level next time and come down and take back over the county executive. I'm like, yo, dude, like, yo. And there's a Republican, I think he represents Long Island or something. They're up there trying to get all this voter suppression stuff in. I'm telling you, it's about to get ugly. It's what y'all gonna do. What are y'all gonna do right now at this moment? This is your time. You don't do nothing, y'all gonna have no kind of bail reform. Not only won't have no bail reform, whatever you had before bail reform is gonna be worse than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be worse than that because they're gonna strip everything away, yo. And I know I'm laughing, but yo, that's the reality of what's about to happen right now.
Boy, it's gonna be horrible. You ain't gonna see Ray for a long time. Yeah. Oh man.
Some of your unions might support it because they're gonna get a whole lot of overtime again.
They go Damon doing all those doubles.
Yeah, they get their raise. They gonna be doing 4 or 5 doubles a week, yo. They gonna be getting that money, yo. And I know we laughing at this, but yo, this is the reality of the situation. I'm serious.
Yeah. So anyway, I up to 3,000, 3,500 back in crack era time. Numbers, that's crack era numbers, 3,500 out there. Like, we ain't seen Damon in 8 months.
Wait, ain't seen Damon or Ray, because they don't Ray off the street, Damon doing
all that overtime.
I know sometimes you gotta laugh at things, but yo, real talk, that don't take away like you said, though.
Oh,
Y'all got
man.
decisions to make. Y'all got responsibilities, and it's on.
Oh.
A lot of this is on y'all. We can't put everything on the elected officials. That's all. That's the point I want to make. We got elections coming up right now. Every state representative is up for election this year.
Oh,
Every
man.
state, the governor, your state senators, your assembly people, they all up this year.
All right, man. On that note,
deuces.
Peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.